Hey guys, Corey from Aquarium Co-op. Another day in the fish room. Today I'm outside, it's sunny, nothing to complain about, love it. So, kind of made myself a little space. I just put a chair next to my koi pond and I kind of hang out here when it's nice. And, think about what I'm going to do for the day, what I'm going to, build in the fish room, that type of thing. But just refilled my auto feeder and thought, why not feed the koi a little bit and talk about them? Just because I do love koi and, so let me grab some food. But, so I've got all these koi in here. This only holds about 1,000 gallons of water, which is too small for these koi. And I do plan to build, a much bigger pond. That's kind of why we bought this house for, other things like the fish room and stuff like that. But it's a time thing. I don't know when I'll get to it. And so, what I do in the interim is we change lots and lots and lots of water. So, over here, in this filter, you can see I'm using the Python hook, but I have this much water flowing in 24 hours a day all the time. Now I only have chlorine in my water, so I can gas it out, where a lot of people have chloramine and this wouldn't work. You'd have to use a carbon block filter and stuff like that. But basically the water comes in, mixes throughout my pond, and then I've built, as you know, everything's auto water change for me. And so I actually have a PVC overflow that I've built, and it comes here into my garden that's ridiculously overgrown. I need to, me and my wife are just working too much, we just got back from Japan and those types of things, but we need to desperately clear this out and get our vegetables going like we like to go, or have going. We did a little bit last year, but this pipe comes down into, so the white pipe comes from my pond down into here, and this, that's why it's growing so well here. So like water from my pond comes here, we reuse it, it's nice, got lots of nitrogen in it from the koi. And then over here where you can see we've done a little bit of cleaning, but not as lush over here because there's no water being put over here. And so the goal is to recycle all the water from my fish room and my pond into vegetables and things like that. And so that'll probably unfold slowly over the summer, and just as we find time. That's the hardest thing we're having trouble with right now, is finding time. But yeah, I'm gonna do some more videos on koi. I'm gonna visit, koi.com, Pan Air Corp, and get some experts' opinions on koi. I do buy koi from them for my store as well as some other sources. Like when I import the Japanese koi, we import through them because they're already ordering anyway. And yeah, so my favorite are doitsu, which the doitsu means it doesn't really have scales. It's got kind of a ridge on the back and then maybe one on the side, which of course, I gotta put some more food in if I want to show that off because they're not coming up. Oh, maybe they've just had their fill now, so it'll be hard to show. But doitsu are my favorite. I really want to find some of my favorite patterns, like kohaku and hayutsuri and shiroutsuri, which shiroutsuri is just black and white. I have one of those, but it's not doitsu, which means scaleless. I've got a hayutsuri as well, which is just kind of the black and red or black and orange, which that's that guy swimming around down there. Water's still a little green, we're fixing that. So I would love to get those and the ones that I like. I've got kind of this oddball guy here I picked up last year at the auction. But yeah, I'm going to cover some of the auctions this year and things like that. But if you're not into koi, that was boring, but that's what I like to do. I like to sit and watch my koi pond. I'm not really interested in breeding them, so they're purely just ornamental fish that I can enjoy. I like looking at them, I like interacting with them. I like big fish. But, it's noon now and the sun's starting to burn me, so I better get to work. The goal today, in theory, is to set up all of these tanks. In theory, I say, because I don't know that I can actually accomplish that yet, but I've got all these custom tanks, and this one is, I only got like 6 of these ones. These ones are like the 25 or 30 gallon tanks. They're a little bit taller than these ones, obviously. And this whole van's stacked with them. I want to say I've got, of this size, there's 25 total. The goal is, and today I'm at least gonna punch a hole today. Like I always say, today if I have time, I'm going to run this train line. Well, I think I need to do it no matter what today. Like it's holding me back. Like I need to develop this side of the room, and that's not happening because I got to start over here, and I just typically am not starting where I want to start each day. And so I'm gonna punch a hole through this wall, and the goal is that in theory we'll stack tanks all the way through this section. It's about 10 feet. Was that right? No, it was, yeah, 12 feet. I think it was about 12 feet, and my thinking was I could basically build this, like these 20 gallons, but I'm considering going 3 high, and I don't know if I can do that yet. And the reason why I'm considering 3 high, because if you guys know, I hate getting on a ladder to get to a tank. I don't enjoy that. If I'm catching fish out, it's one thing, but just to feed a tank, I don't enjoy getting on a ladder, feeding, moving. Getting on a ladder, feeding, moving. That's not fun. So my goal is, being that these tanks are only 1 foot tall, as opposed to like a normal 20-gallon tank that's, I want to say 17 or 18 inches. I have to measure, so don't quote me that. But I'm going to gain like, let's say 6 inches off of each row. And so in theory, the overall height of the tanks, even though I'm going 3 tall, should be about 1.5 feet less. You know, so like already, if I was just to build this rack out of the tanks that are in that van, it would be, you know, already like 1 foot shorter, and that to me is just going to be really low. And so I'm thinking like, well, if I was to really work at it, I think I could fit a 3rd row up here and just maximize my space on this wall. And so that means, you know, 12-foot section, I'll be adding basically 24 20-gallon tanks with an oddball footprint to this. And this itself wouldn't go here. I was going to put 40 breeders here, but it's going to stick out too far. Like, it's already sticking out a little bit, and that's before bulkheads have to go in. So it's going to stick out like 6 inches. These other tanks that are only 15 inches, I'm going to go back 3 inches this way. And so that 3 inches is going to make it so I'm almost flush. Yeah, I'm going to have to come out a little bit for the bulkheads, but I won't be out to here. Instead, I'll be like out to here, and I can deal with that. And then the goal is to not infringe on this door as much as possible. We're going to butt all the tanks up and the stand and everything as close as we can, basically to here. So any extra room, since it's a little bit more than 12 feet, any extra room is going to be saved right here. And let's say the tanks stop here. That'll make this doorway just open a little more if I need to get in here to do stuff. Now, the big thing that's been holding me back is the level at which I set the bottom row to, because I just haven't done the math and thinking, and well, I've done a lot of thinking, but I haven't done the math. Because where I come out here, every 8 feet it has to raise 2 inches. So like, let's say right here, boom, we're 2 inches higher than we were. At that corner over there, we're going to be 2 inches higher than that. And then at the 8-foot mark here, we're going to be 2 inches higher than that. So already we've risen 6 inches. And then let's say I bring tanks all the way out to here or something, we might be 8 inches taller. So 8 inches is a lot of raising up, I think, you know. And so then it becomes, how low can I start? And when we get back in here, the logic is, if I come over the top like this one does, there's pretty much no chance for leaking, because I've got the pump, and that's what you've probably been hearing going on in the background. When this fills, it'll pump water out, and then if that was to fail, we have right in the back there, that is the drain. So if I come in lower than that, like let's say I come in where my foot is down here, you know, and make it really low, in theory, if this was to fill up and that was not to work, it could back flush, or not back flush, but fill this line, and I could be running water all over the place. And so I need to measure and see, can I come over the top of that thing, or at least very high on it? You know, maybe I come in at the, you know, like right at the top there, above where I basically have to be where that overflow is. I have to be above that. If I'm not above that, I'm going to be in real big trouble if something backs up. And obviously we're designing a system so it will never back up, but at the same time, you should always plan like things are going to fail, because if you don't, when they do, it's just horrible. So I've got to, and then, so the other problem is, like, the reason I've been holding it off is, this is kind of a weird little wall, and I don't want to just rip everything off and see where the studs are, but obviously there's a stud here. I imagine there's a stud here, but I don't know, like, is it doubled up here and here? Like, was this a door previously that they moved? I don't know. So I got to kind of just cut in and go, okay, what are we looking at? And then go through there and then hug the wall as much as I can. And if I can get the drain in, if that drain goes in, it becomes very easy to set those tanks up because they're already drilled, they're already painted. And so then I just have to build a stand, and if you watch the videos on that, you know it takes like 30 minutes to build that stand. I just gotta run to Home Depot or Lowe's, buy the parts, unload the cinder blocks, which is a hot day, that's gonna suck, but put the cinder blocks up, put the, you know, the 2x4x12s up is what I'll probably be using because it's 12 feet long. Boom, there we go. I've got, you know, then I've got, you know, the stand up, then I just gotta build the fill lines. And so in theory that could happen today. Like, it might be a long day, like it might take me 8 or 10 hours to do all that, but also instantly, boom, 24 more tanks, which is equivalent in my fish room. 24 more tanks is like at least this much and over, like, I think, right? So we've got 8 there, 16 here, yeah, 24. It's 24 tanks minus this 40 breeder. So today, I mean, it doesn't quite double my capacity, but it's easily at least 1/3 more I could just add straight up today. You guys probably haven't seen this video, maybe you have, I don't know what order they're coming out in yet, but I spent most of the morning sleeping, catching up on sleep from the day before because I had to go to the airport. I was up till 5:30 or something like that, putting away fish. But we did bring in lots of stuff. There's more stuff at the store. You'd have to watch that video to see it all, but we've got platinum ogon, gold ogons, and what they're calling tricolors from Singapore here. And an interesting thing, if you look back at old videos, there's lots of debris on the bottom of this tank. Well, goldfish and koi are so good at cleaning and eating that they've picked up all that stuff and chewed it down into nothing. Over here we've got, I think, 250 to 300 assorted Singapore koi, lots of diamond, or not diamond scale, but Jinrin scale and things like that in there. All sitting with meds, so I currently have the auto water change turned off on these 2 totes so that they can sit in the meds, get dewormed, get any parasites if they have any of that going on, make sure they don't come down with ick from shipping. And then this one here, which I could probably take this off now, they're a little bit jumpy still. These are imported from Sakai Fish Farm in Japan. And there are some really cool fish that are going to come into the store that hopefully I'll let go. Like, there's some fish I've already fallen in love with here. These guys will retail at about 50 bucks a piece. And yeah, there's already some lookers in there. Personally, like, everyone's got their own opinion of what they like to look at, but there's some fish that I really like in there that I would love to own, and maybe I will keep one or something like that. The problem is if I keep them all, I'll never sell anything, right? So that's not a good business model. But everything else that I brought in was, you know, there's 300 cherry barbs here. I just fed them. They still got meds in the water, so they're slowly changing out. I brought in, I don't know, I have to look at the invoice, but there's either 400 or 500 Von Rio tetras, and then there's like 75 Bolivian rams in here, so lots of Bolivian rams. Everything looks to be doing good so far. So, like, this came in Monday morning, I guess it would be, you know, so they've been here a little over a day. I had a couple deaths initially, like in the bag, but everything else is doing well, so that's just showing me that you know, the meds and the water that I had ready for them is doing well. That's a good sign. I love when that happens. Down here, I brought in 400 black neon tetras, and then there's 30 black ghost knives. And they came in, they were biting each other and stuff like that a little bit in the bag, so some of them had some pretty torn up fins. Looks like they're coming around. I had one that was really weak, but I haven't found any bodies yet, so maybe he's actually recovering. Obviously I have to keep a close eye on this, but, you know, lots of stuff going for the retail store. Let's see, what else did I bring in? I moved my turtles. So the turtles were in this tank, and I actually got it ready in case some shrimp came in, but as you see in the video, the bag of 300 shrimp came in DOA, so that wasn't needed. Let's see, what else? I brought in think 400 pearl danios, that's what's going on down there. You know, they seem to be doing okay. There's no bodies on the bottom. I'm not seeing any floating on top. Meds are still in there. So I think they're gonna, you know, come around just fine. I do need to, I think I need to separate off these angels. They just are continually fighting, like, I don't know if I want to call it a plague, but they've got something from the wild that my normal conventional meds aren't treating. And so I'm gonna have to use some harsher stuff, you know, and they've got just some gunk, you know, I don't know what else to call it, but like on their fins there, you know, it's, I've dewormed them, I've deparasited them, I've done, you know, kind of Icex meds for fungal and things like that, and so far I just haven't got it, so I might have to go to something more extreme like clout and stuff like that. The problem is, some of those more extreme meds kind of also make it so they don't breed very well or become sterile, and that's, you know, that would be the opposite of what I'm trying to do here, because I kind of want to breed those, so if I make them sterile, that doesn't help. Oh, what am I stepping on? Oh, down here, got the turtles, got a lot of water Sprite there. Need to do some more. I've got the UVB bulb. I just need to buy the thing to shine it down on here. Yeah, so, you know, I was thinking they were going to eat this a little faster before I had to film, and so I thought it'd be a little more light in there. But they haven't eaten it fast enough yet. They are eating it, but not super fast. So, but yeah, so that tank's up and running, doing its thing, and now I can either talk for like another hour and get nothing done, or I can put the camera down and start drilling holes, and then force myself to actually get started and get that project done. Yeah, the last thing I want to say, I do love these Fishroom updates because I just get to talk about anything I want. And, you know, I don't have to worry like it's a presentation, like, oh, I better make sure that I've shaved that day because I'm filming this video for this product and I want it to look good for someone, you know, like, let's say the Python review and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if I shaved, but I should have. And, you know, those videos are just different. This is just me and my Fishroom day to day. You know, I've got messed up hair because it's like, today's my day off, right? So I didn't spend time getting my hair ready so I can go get dirty in the Fishroom drilling, because I would assume once I chime in here again, like there's going to be drywall in my hair and all kinds of stuff as I'm getting my head down in there to look like, oh, am I going to hit a beam or aren't I? And there's going to be cobwebs all over me and stuff, so I don't dress up to get dirty. And I kind of like that. I kind of just like that it's just me and you guys in my Fishroom, and I just blab on about what I'm thinking about. And what I love is you guys chime in with comments like, oh, I would try it this way, or have you thought about doing this? Because it does make me think about other things, like, well, maybe I should do that. Maybe that is, yeah, maybe, you know. So anyway, thanks for that. And I'm going to chime in once I get some work done, but I'm going to get started. Alright, so I've done some planning. I'm big on visualization because you can measure all day long and then you put it in and you go, that was not enough space. Like, I thought I needed that, but it turns out I want this. And so that's what I've done here is I've kind of mocked it up. So I'm thinking 2 cinder blocks off the ground. That gives me about 15 inches. Then I'm going to put a 2x4 in here, so that's going to raise it another 1.5 inches. So let's just say we're 16 inches off the ground. And then we've got this 15-gallon tank. It sits right here. That basically puts me, it adds a foot, so we're at 28 inches, or, you know, 2 feet 4 inches off the ground. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but clearly we're a little bit higher than the run over there. Now, I got to put in that 2x4 still, so that's important. That's going to raise it another 1.5 inches. And then, you know, the problem becomes, like, maybe I put in my taller tanks down low, so that'll raise it, they're 16 inches, so 4 more inches. That could be huge on this bottom row, you know, so you gotta figure it's like adding another half block. So we'd be up a little more, and that'll make these bottom tanks drain easier, because what I've learned is the closer this overflow is to the actual drain running, the slower the water falls. Because if you have the drain way up here and the water falls, it picks up speed as it falls, and it can get going really fast, and you don't have any problems. But I could run into some problems. I might have to turn the flow down if it doesn't drain fast enough, which, I mean, I think it will, but it's one of those things, like, I already own those other tanks anyway, so maybe I just do that. The other thing I've done is, this is the pipe I always use to drain, 2-inch ABS, and it fits behind this tank. That's very important, because if I build a stand and this doesn't fit, that's bad. So what I will be doing is I will be, I can't talk. I will be plumbing this pipe in first, because that's the backbone of my system. If this doesn't work, there's no point in setting up anything else. So that is what I'm going to drill a hole in to start with. And let me make sure that I actually am thinking right here. Let me go down and look. Like, I should actually have this pipe behind the cinder blocks. It does fit barely. Alright, good. Because I actually had it behind the tank and there was no cinder block right down here, and that could have been an oops. Like, the planning stage is going, oh, that was dumb. So that looks like it's going to work. That's good. You know, I'm happy about that. Now I just got to spend probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes making something go from here to there, and then from there it's just 10-foot sections. Like, I'll probably only run the pipe to, roughly here, because what'll happen is once I need to run around this corner, I gotta drain this thing, pull it out, plumb it, run that section also. So I'll probably cap it around here or so, and then add that in when I'm ready to add that in. What else? Well, when I was walking around, getting tape measure and stuff like that, I thought, I haven't done, well, maybe I haven't done, it feels like I haven't done an update on this in a long time because I was in Japan, but my pistos did make it through it. They're growing, and they're not ready to sell or anything yet at the store, but I just like to show people ways of doing things. Like, most people would say, this is not a working setup for, like, breeding and raising a pistos, right? Like, they would say, like, well, where's all the leaf litter? Where's all the plants? Where's all the cover? And yet, all I have is a sponge filter and an apistogramma hut, which these are, Cobalt makes these, plecocaves.com makes these, and you can see all the fry have raised up in here. Now, I couldn't have done less parenting. Like, it would be impossible. All I did was put food in the tank. And don't get me wrong, there's something to be said for setting a tank up correctly, changing water. I do run crushed coral in here. Internet would tell you that's not going to work. Well, all I'm showing you is it works for me. Algae is in there. They're still picking away at it. Like, that's the thing, is they eat this algae while I'm not feeding them. Like, yes, I feed them, but they still use it to grow, and I think that's an important thing. Pardon me. Sorry about that. I had to cough off camera. I'm still getting over being sick, and but there's no time to wait around. I got fish rooms to build. So down here, let me get a chair here and try and show this off a little better. So down here, we've got the other, this is the super red version of the cockatoides in here. Still no action from them. I added a few Rhamnos tetras as dithers. Clearly they have more choices. They've got a couple of caves, they've got the rock with the plant in there. And these guys, like, maybe the male's just too old, or maybe they just don't like each other, but I might have to give up on those guys, because at first I thought fish room's just too new, tanks aren't seasoned enough, I don't know what. But now that I've proven up there that they are breeding, that kind of, tells me that maybe that's not right. I just noticed something weird about this female. I had never noticed that before. She's got extended tail fin rays. And I thought, I was like, oh no, is she sick, something wrong? But no, those are actual rays on her tail that are extended. And yeah, I could expect it maybe on that top there, but in the middle, that's weird. I hadn't seen that before. Normally, I've always seen them in tanks where they're being too nippy with each other, and they just have beat up tails anyway. But the other difference I wanted to point out here is that I've got an Anubias there and one other, like, live plant that's struggling a little bit. And we had a pair of apistos, right? Okay, we can agree with that. Up here, I had no plants and a pair of apistos. I would say very, very similar bioloads. Like, obviously it's not scientific and I can't prove that it was the exact same, because maybe I fed, if anything, I fed these guys a little more and these guys, maybe a little less, I don't know. But all the difference in the world is coming from this algae. Look, so I've got algae everywhere in here, and most people would say that tank looks horrible. Like, that is a bad looking tank. And I'm not gonna say it looks great, but The difference is, down here, I'm running an Anubias and a little plant right there. I've got a little bit of hair algae on the sponge filter. Well, I won't say a little bit. There's a decent amount of hair algae there. But no algae on the glass at all, like anywhere. And so that kind of shows you, when I tell people at the store all the time, like, you can choose to grow algae or you can choose to grow plants. You're going to grow one of the two, and this is a perfect example of that is true. I'm growing a plant, I would call it a plant and a half. Like, I really should get more gravel, plant that, maybe even use a little fertilizer or get some more bioload in there. But I'm growing a plant and a half, and the glass is perfect. And then up here, I just have the same tank essentially with no plants and not looking perfect. And so, you know, if you're on the fence about getting some live plants, realize it doesn't take a whole lot to make a huge impact in your aquariums. I know everyone wants me to sell plants online, and we're working on it. That's all I can say is that, you know, there's only so much time in the day, and I could either sit at home and code and train and things like that to my employees, and we can ship plants, or I can work in the fish room or things like that. Personally, I enjoy working in the fish room. Building the website is fun sometimes, and training employees, it's not my favorite thing to do. Like, it's not fun. I don't go, ooh, yeah, that was so fun to teach someone how to ship an Anubias. But it is fun to me to see something spawn and stuff like that in my fish room, so I try to balance it out. And, you know, so if you desperately like, I need plants, I just want plants so bad, I got nowhere to get them. We do have some plants on our website. It's the dwarf aquarium lily bulbs and the tiger lotus bulbs. Both those relatively easy to grow. Tiger lotus bulbs take a little more light. Aquarium lily bulbs, super easy to grow. And I am going to do some more videos on plants and setting up more plants, stuff like that. But mostly, the reason why I'm not doing that right now, I told myself I'm going to get all these tanks looking a lot better, start planting them, making my own after I get back from Japan. The problem was all these new tanks came to me, and so, like, the reason they're still sitting in my van is, to me, it doesn't make sense to unload them like into my garage and stack them up and just take up more room when I could just set them up. Like, those tanks have to go somewhere. I may as well set them up. And unfortunately, I'm a guy that loves efficiency. Like, if you couldn't tell, right? Like auto water changing and all that. And sometimes it gets the better of me of, like, it's just more efficient to set those tanks up than it is to stack them somewhere and then move them again and then set them up. And when they're sitting, and that's this, anyone that owns a lot of aquariums that aren't set up knows this to be true. Like, for every, let's say 20 or 30 aquariums you own that are stacked somewhere, like let's say it's in your garage or in a storage unit or something like that, like every 3 months you break one. Like, it just, you're moving something and you nick the corner or whatever it is. And so acrylic obviously is better about that, but you know, I don't want to see any of these break. I don't want to see anything happen to them. And so for me, it's like, you know what? Bite the bullet, work in the hot weather, get this done. Not only will I have 24 more aquariums to play with, but they'll be out of my way. Like, I'm already gonna have to move those tanks at least one more time because I gotta move them. Like, let's say I set them in my yard. I have to make a run to Lowe's to buy cinder blocks and the 2x12s that I need. And so that's already another time I gotta move them. And just imagine if I put them in my garage, let's say I put them somewhere and, oh geez, I gotta get my table saw out or something like that, and it's in the way. Like, that's another time you're moving them. It's another chance to break them. And so I already have glass tanks stacked up over there, and I'm just worried that I start stacking glass and acrylic and making it impossible to get around in there, I'm just gonna start breaking stuff. And so the easiest way to alleviate that is to start setting stuff up. That's what I'm doing. I know this is long-winded, but some of you guys like even longer videos. I'm just saying what's on my mind and explaining how and why I do stuff. But back to the original thing, I am going to show you guys a lot of plants. I do love plants. I work a lot with plants. You know, I kind of want to do, I'm thinking about doing a series where I show you how to become like a master aquatic horticulturist, like through your local club. Like most of your clubs, well, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of fish clubs will have a horticulture awards program. The Greater Seattle Aquarium Society does, Greater Portland Aquarium Society does. I know others do. You know, down in California, there's clubs like Scape, and you know, there's stuff in Texas and all over the place. But I'll show you how easy it is, in my opinion, to actually become a master horticulturist and actually get really good with plants. you know, they're really easy and really difficult at the same time. Like, you know, for me, like you might say it's really easy to be in shape, you just have to work out. Well, like that's obviously difficult for me. I never have time and I'm lazy. But I can say the same thing for plants. Like all you gotta do is give them good light and fertilizer and they grow. And if we can talk about that, if you want to do it, I can show you how to do it. Just like if I really wanted to work out all the time and become more in shape, I can do it. It's not from a lack of information. I can find that information, I can do it. It's from not wanting to do it. And so I plan on doing a series that'll help everyone really start growing plants if you want to do it. And you know, I'm not gonna bombard the channel where it's like, oh yeah, it's 40 videos in a row and all we're doing is plants, because if you're not into plants, it can be super boring. So I try to mix it up. And you know, even today, what did we talk about? We talked about koi, we talked about these apistos, we talked about algae, we talked about plants, we're talking about setting up fish tanks. There's probably some more things that are gonna come up, but I'm gonna get back to work because I feel like I'm just stalling and talking to you guys as opposed to getting dirty and sweating. So I need to be doing that. And I'm gonna chime in maybe when I get that pipe in. Like that'll be a huge step for me, and hopefully I'll be motivated to talk about it. So, all right. So the opposite of working out, by the way, and getting work done, I'm munching on some chips because I haven't, like, let's see, I didn't have breakfast. I should go grab some lunch, but I'm kind of waiting to grab something to eat while I'm picking up parts. But I just want to, now I'm gonna work in food product reviews, and you think fish food. No, these chips are amazing. These Dorito, what are they? Dorito Mix Taco Explosion. Like, they're not good if you eat each chip by itself. Like, the salsa ones are a little weird. The taco ones suck. The spicy nacho and the sour cream are decent. But if you take like all of those little chips and eat like a handful of popcorn, it's amazing. Like, it's kind of like you're eating nachos. So they're way too expensive, and my wife bought them because they were new. I don't know if I'll buy more, but they're good chips. You should try them. I'm never gonna get any work done because now I gotta do confessions. So my genius plan for this turtle tank, I'm not sure it's genius anymore. We'll see how it goes. But so I'm walking by, I'm totally ready to go work, and I'm like, what is that in the sand? Well, one of the Danio Chorpre, or orange glowite Danios, jumped and landed in the sand. I had not, for lack of a better term, accounted for that or planned for that to happen. So I didn't really think about the fish wanting to jump onto the land. Like, I don't know, I guess I just didn't think of that. So if that happens once or twice more, it'll have to be fishless setup. Even though I love to run fish with my turtles, I don't want them beaching themselves and dying. That's a horrible death, like this, to sit there and die. I feel bad. I feel horrible, actually. So that's a confession. You know, for as much as I know and as much as I work with fish, you never think of it all. You don't think this fish, you know, like, you don't really think about the fish jumping out of a river onto the land, but I'm sure it happens, right? Like, that's basically what happened there, is the fish jumped, landed on land, and didn't make it back in. It's like when a fish jumps out of the tank. Like, clearly this fish can't jump out of the tank because, you know, it'd have to jump like 8 inches out, but it could jump onto that landmass, and so I'm an idiot. I feel bad. I always hate when I lose fish when it's directly related to me. Like, had I kept that fish in this tank, it would do fine. Like, it'd still be alive today, but because I moved it and got it on auto water change and made its life better, I killed it. And so, you know, what I try to always do, and I tell my customers this, and I tell you guys the same thing: don't feel bad about killing a fish as long as you learn from it and don't repeat it. Most of these fish are here so that we can play with them. They wouldn't exist. No one would have bred them, that type of thing. But I do feel it's wrong if you just let a fish die and you keep letting it happen and you don't learn from it. Like, that's, to me, that starts getting onto the point of like animal abuse and things like that. Like, I'm not into that. But clearly it was not intentional here. It was a mistake. I admit my mistakes, and I will try to not let that happen again. You know, I could remove all those fish right now, but I feel like maybe he jumped just because he was brand new, you know, and there's a little bit of negligence there. If another one dies on my watch, I'm really gonna feel bad about it. But I do think overall, if they don't jump and don't get scared anymore, that is a better tank for them. Auto water changing, all that. But yeah, so learn from your mistakes just like I do. I love to show my mistakes because my hope is my mistake there will save you from making the same mistake. And had I watched someone else's turtle video on doing what I was doing, which I haven't really seen people do auto water change systems on their turtle tank with, you know, lay areas and stuff like that. Like I've read about it on forums, but you don't watch videos on it. Had I watched someone have that problem that I have, I would have known that could have happened. So yeah, that's why I do this. So, all right, I'm actually getting to work unless I screw up 10 times more on the way to walking 10 feet that way. So, well, I got the line mocked up, put in. I don't know what the right term is. Relatively painless so far. Knocking on wood, because, you know, that just, saying that just cost me 3 hours and delay later. But you can see here, got the pipe coming through. It's going to be real snug to fit it to there, so I might have to cut out a little bit of that wastebasket line, or not line, but something I'm using. I got to go get more fittings. I don't have enough. But yeah, so I've got, you know, one 10-foot section of pipe all the way to here. I might extend it out. We'll see how ambitious I get today. That's always the, you know, the question, right? Like, is Corey super lazy or ambitious today? So I've got to do that. I wanted to talk about these tanks, you know, kind of while we're talking about, what do I want to say? Like getting tanks for cheap, buying new stuff, things like that. So, you know, these tanks, they're 20 gallons, a little bit oddball size. They're scratched up, as you can see here. Like these, you know, that's fine though for what I'm using them for. You know, they were literally being used in the store, you know, 3 months ago or whatever. Like they were selling Farlawallas and Pearl Danios and glowfish tetras apparently for, good lord, glowfish tetras for 12 bucks. That seems like a lot, but what do I know? Paleatus Cories, Green Phantom Plecos for 50 bucks. All I'm saying is I would buy a Green Phantom for 50 bucks way before I'd buy a glowfish for 12 bucks. Yo-Yo Loach is at 6 bucks. Anyway, so I want to talk about some things with these tanks. So this was a very expensive system. When he bought them, you know, I want to say 15 years ago, I think is what he said. You know, we're talking, I don't know the exact price, but like state of the art. The stands they were built in California, had to withstand earthquakes, even though they came up here to Washington. Never had an earthquake really that posed a problem even. But because they're made out of metal, you can see here that, you know, what do I always say is that metal and water don't mix, and so the stands were rusting. And even like this metal stand here, I realized I'm a hypocrite because I bought some metal stands. That being said, they were crazy cheap. They weren't like this, where, you know, an 8-foot section of tanks like I bought, literally probably set them back $15,000 to $20,000 for brand new tanks, the stands, the shipping to get them to Washington, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that build quality for that price doesn't make sense to me. Whereas my cinder block stands with wood would have held up the 15 years all the same and cost me a fraction of the price. Now, obviously, new tanks cost money, but when I price them out at like 80 bucks a tank wholesale, if I'm buying a ton of them at a time, which if you're building a fish store you would, at 80 bucks and you only get 24 of them, let's just say it's 25, 8 times 25 is like, what? That's $2,000, is that right? You'd get 10 of them would be 800, yeah, it's like $2,000. So because it came as a system with built-in, like I think it had built-in T8 lighting and there was some wiring and you know, and it was, I think it was connected to sumps too, which, you know, obviously I hate that system. But, you know, they paid a premium when they could have built it themselves, and, you know, and they ended up, the reason I got these is they bought new systems. So when the store was moving, it didn't go out of business, it's moving, and they bought brand new systems for the entire store. Well, not the entire store, they reused one of the systems that was the newest, like this, that wasn't scratched up much. And I bought everything else, and I know they bought systems again. So, you know, when you start looking at like the marine land systems and the DAS systems, and you start seeing that they're 10 grand or more per like 4-foot section, like somewhere between 8 and 10 grand new, like, and then you go to like a PetSmart. Let's say you go to a PetSmart, and you see they have 5 of those systems in a row. Realize someone spent, you know, $35,000 to $50,000 to put that in, and that's mind-blowing when you know, like me or you as a hobbyist could take that money and you could build out a huge amount of tanks. But they come as a working system, you know, and I say working with quotes there because we all know that they kill fish. Like, you share the water, yeah, you're using UV sterilization, but that's not quite good enough. It helps, but it's not good enough. But anyway, I don't even know why I got on that tangent, but anyway, great deal. I'm in love with them, I'm using them. But as part of, you know, so I've got 20 bucks invested into this, and I think I'm going to reuse these bulkheads. You know, I only need one, so I got to cap this one off. Otherwise, I have to plumb 2 lines down because obviously you can't just use one. So I'm a little worried about some of this. Like, I want to make sure this actually holds. I think this got loose. What they were doing, and to me, like this, you know, maybe these are just older bulkheads that are made to do this, but most bulkheads aren't made to have one of these made up to it like this. But this one apparently did. Like, it's a pretty good fit, and I bet you it works, or it worked for them. That being said, like, I could use this. So here's my options. I could use this fitting and spend no money. I'd have to cap that one off then. But then I've got my not pressure point, but my choke point is a 1/2 inch. Like, I did that with my store. One of my walls, I did 1/2 inch. I was like, yeah, let's make it least intrusive as possible. Well, the problem was duckweed and stuff like that can build up because it's only like as wide as your finger. So it, you know, and then you get to a choke point of that small, which you can't always get to a choke point at some point. But so I'm going to cap this one off, and I'm going to use this one. And this one had a real big one, like. And so now you evaluate, like, yes, could I use this fitting again? Sure, it's 1.25 inch fitting, and that's probably 1 inch tubing. But when you're buying tubing, 1 inch tubing is way, way, way more expensive than the 5/8 tubing that I use on all my lines. And I don't have a bunch of big, bulky tubes. Now, how do I know this? At my store, I tried 1 inch tubing like this, because I went from this, you know, like, oh man, it's too small. And then I went to 1 inch, which is like too big. Now there's tons of tubing everywhere. Yeah, I don't get any clogs, but once I went to a system like this, where it was 1 inch to this, the smaller one, to 5/8, I don't really get clogs either. So, you know, you got to find the sweet spots and where you're just straight up wasting money. Oh, there goes my pump system. Where you're just straight up wasting money and where you're actually investing good money. So I can save myself probably $1 or less, use this, and then waste money buying a bigger line. Or I can do what I do there, and I use an elbow, a combo elbow, and then a 3/4 line, or a 3/4 barb, and then I shove 5/8 onto it. I think that's what I'm going to do here, is I'm just going to glue in the elbow and just do it like I normally would do it. Because why change something that you know that works? That's my other thinking is, obviously it works well for all of these tanks, and what I don't like in my store and at home, you know, and I'm breaking that rule here, but I don't like having different sets of equipment. So like, you know, like glass tanks and acrylic tanks. If you use the wrong pad, you're gonna mess up. Same thing, like if I have different sized bulkheads and I have different lines and stuff like that, it makes it much harder to upgrade things. So like, I know in my fish room, when the water lines that come into the tanks, I basically put in 1 tap for every 20 gallons. And so that way, when I pressurize the system, it's all equal. So if I have, like on my 75 there and my 100 gallons, I believe I have 4 taps going into each. And so I know that I can figure out the rate at which 1 tap puts out per minute, and I can extrapolate that. Now, if I had different size taps and different systems and things like that, you can't make things uniform and figure stuff like that out. So, like on these tanks, they're 20 gallons again, great, that's a good thing for me. 20 gallons, I'm going to put 1 tap to them, and they're going to get the same water change as the 75 gallons got 4. Now the 100 gallon that has 4 is going to be slightly less water change than this. Yeah, could I put in 5? I could have. But I think at a certain point, you know, like at a 500 gallon tank, I wouldn't put in 25 taps. You know, at like that point, I would just put a hose straight to it and do it manually like I do in my big tank at the store. But uniform equipment makes calculating things easier, and so like
sometimes I'll dose my water change water with fertilizer and it goes into all the tanks. Well, I can calculate that because I know how much water is going into each tank, but if I didn't have that uniform, I wouldn't. I can go, oh man, what if this 10-gallon tank gets way too much fertilizer and this tank gets not enough? And so when you try to keep things as uniform as possible, and so even though this is a 20-gallon tank and way different footprint, like this is 20 gallons here, and it's almost like, yeah, actually, it's almost like this 20-gallon, like if we put it like this is how like my 20 gallons are over there, like they're taller. And it's almost like we took that tank and flopped it over on its side. That's similar to what it actually is because, you know, it's got a bigger footprint, which I'm digging. It's going to be great for breeding fish. Like, I'm thinking it'll be great for breeding apistos and guppies and all that kind of stuff. Give them more footprint, great. But so now what I need to do, I need to go buy. So checklist of things I need to do. I got to unload my van full of tanks. Got to unload that. Then I gotta go to Lowe's and grab cinder blocks and 2x12s, yes. And I need to calculate how many of those I need, so I will do that after I put this video camera down. Then I can come back, lay out the blocks, lay out the wood. Ooh, I need to pick up more stuff. I need to pick up more fittings for these and the plugs. And yeah, so if I pick up that, and I pick up some elbows, and I pick up all those parts, yes, I can build this out today. Now, I should check my pipe and make sure I have enough for the auto water change system. I may or may not, like, you know, I gotta check. And I'm already dreading doing that. That's like my least favorite part, is plumbing the fill lines. Just because you got to tap each one, put it in, and most of it is I got to measure a lot. Like, I got to line it up with where the tanks are. I can't just like, you know, like this drain pipe. I just put the pipe in, I drill a hole, put in the drain, move on. But I have to plan it out before I put it in with the other ones. So, you know, not that, you know, I'm crying about something that's awesome. Like, a lot of people, you know, would love to have this fish room, and I get that. I do love my fish room. I'm just, you know, I gotta have something to complain about, right? So, alright, I'm gonna go spend a bunch of money probably. I don't even know, like, how many cinder blocks I need, the wood I need, and all these fittings. Like, I bet it's easily $100, but we'll see. Maybe I'll chime in and let you guys know how much it costs to buy fittings and crud like that. So, alright, this video is already getting long, but, you know, it's gonna be, in my opinion, a lot getting done. So, we'll chime in later. Well, it's like 5 o'clock now. I went to the hardware store, picked up a lot of stuff, got sidetracked on YouTube, was answering comments, and generally just being lazy and trying not to work. So I grabbed a lot of supplies. I'll show you those real quick, so I gotta start hauling them in and setting up. But here's the cinder blocks I'm gonna need. Here's the 2x4s I'm gonna need. Bought a broom as well. Here's the tank stacked up and kind of ready to be going in. I did notice, or I did realize that while on camera I was really bad at math. I was doing it in my head and thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna install 24 tanks today. That'd be amazing. Well, to any of you that caught that before this, good job, because there's no way 24 tanks is gonna fit in this space. I've got 12 feet and I'm only gonna build a 10-foot stand here. That's why, you know, like, I don't know what I was thinking, because I was talking earlier in the video about how I'd have some room down here so I could clear it, and this is exactly like 12 feet from here to here, and I'm only going to put a 10-foot stand in, so it's going to come to like here, and I already know that a 10-foot stand, which is what like this is right here, this is 10 feet, it only fits 8 tanks, and I'm going to add a third row, so I'm only going to fit 12 tanks. Somehow in my little pea brain, I thought 12 feet, yeah, I'm gonna fit more tanks, plus I had another row, yeah, it's gotta be like double or something. I don't know where the math went, because I can't figure out how I screwed that up, but, so now I'm only gonna set up like 12 tanks over there, because that's all that fits. So, you know, it's one of those things that, because I have the tanks, I didn't have to calculate, like, how many tanks should I go buy? Like, I just bought them all, right? So, that leads to a different problem. So yeah, it's, on one hand, it's like, cool, I got extra tanks. On the other hand, it's like, dang, I don't fit as many as I thought I was going to fit in there. That sucks. But now, think it's time to start lugging the blocks, and being it's 5 o'clock already, I'm hesitant that I'm going to get it fully set up. Like, I definitely believe I could get the drains probably done, but filling also, because to do this, I'm going to run a separate line. So like, right now I run a line that goes all the way over to there and fills these aquariums, right? I think it's best that I put another line in this wall separate from this tote. And it's going to require the use of a second pump. But my logic is this: at some point, this 1,000 gallon per hour pump that I'm using that has to push through all this head and basically prime all this pipe isn't going to do it. And so the question, it's like an air pump. Like, can it handle 12 more tanks? Maybe. Can it handle 12 more on top of that? Can it handle like another 30 tanks? Like, at some point, it's not going to push water to the end. And so either A, that could happen like midway through a row and be a pain, or I could just get the system operating on multiple levels. And there's another reason why I want to do that, is because if I have a pump and it's pumping all these tanks at the same time, you know, let's remove head height and pressure and all that from the equation, because my brain can't handle that. I can't even do math on aquariums at this point. But let's say I can use 1,000 gallons per hour, and this down here, if I start slamming 1,000 gallons an hour down there, it might not keep up. Like the pump will, but if the pump ever fails, that right there probably wouldn't keep up with 1,000 gallons per hour. So, you can see my brine shrimp there. So if I have 1,000 gallon per hour pump and it runs for 15 minutes, shuts off, then another pump turns on 5 minutes later and runs for 15 minutes and does, you know, like let's say this wall we just walked by and that wall, it's gonna essentially split it. Now, that being said, you're going, well, 1,000 gallon per hour pump, whether it's pumping it to 10 tanks or 100 tanks, still 1,000 gallons per hour, maybe. The problem is I can't, well, I could probably buy a meter to measure the water coming out over there, and that could probably tell me, but my guess is we're losing a bunch of water to head height and pressure, and then there's all these little valves got to push it through, so I bet you it's only like 300, 400, 500 gallons per hour. I don't know, you know, because I don't know a way to measure it, but I know at a certain point the system's gonna fail, and I can either build in some redundancy now, or I could see if one pump could do it, you know, but I don't know if it will. And so to plumb that, I would have to take the pump out of here, which it's all work that I need to do anyway, but the pump needs to come out of this tank in the studio, which you can see the algae. I cleared up the green water, perfect. Like, great, no green water, fixed it. And now I made a bunch of brown algae. I need to get some plecos in there, and we might even be changing the fish in here, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going. But, you know, I do have a pump down here that runs a little loud and is a little bit, got a hum to it. And I've got a new pump that Eheim sent me, which I'm excited because for as much as I love Eheim and stuff like that, I've never used one of their kind of utility pumps or sump pumps. I always use different brands just from a cost standpoint. You know, I was a hobbyist for a long time, still am a hobbyist, but and it just seemed like, well, why pay double? And I've only ever heard amazing things about it, and I want to try one. That's really what it comes down to, is I want to try one, and I want to know, is it amazing, or yeah, it's just another pump, like whatever. Like, I'll let you guys know, because I haven't used it yet. So I need to install that, then take that pump, install that one in the water change bin, and that will allow me to hook that up to the second line that I'm running. And yeah. Also, I've kind of got lights ready too, and I probably should go buy a 4-foot power strip, but so I've got all these 2-foot lights. These are Stingrays, 2-footers. I've been replacing some of the lights at the store with the Monster Ray lights because they just make fish look amazing. But I'm replacing those at the store, so I'm going to use those here at the Fishroom. I think that's about all I can talk about right now and keep stalling before moving those blocks, because there's nothing worse than being a sweaty mess moving cinder blocks. I swear I hate it so much, but You know, that's exactly why someone's saying, well, I'm building out of wood and you know, you can do this and that. Like, true, but I still maintain it's less work for me. Like, it's like I could be outside sweating even more, like building the stands, you know, out of wood, or I can just move some cinder blocks and, you know, and I still maintain I like the ability to rearrange. Like, let's say I do cap out, you know, like in theory, if I wanted to, and maybe someday I'll do this, but I could break these 8 tanks down, put in 12-inch tanks like I've got, and I've got some extras, and I could put a 3rd row on here, and boom, I've retrofitted 4 more tanks into here. And with a wood stand, I would have to completely take that out, tear it down, and rebuild an entire new thing, where this, all I gotta do is take out a block out of this one and this one, drop it down a level, put the next row of tanks on, put some more blocks on it, boom. So, well actually, yeah, I would have to change these ones out because if I dropped it one more block, it'd be a little tight. I could do it technically, but yeah, so that's where I'm at. Got a couple little discs in here I had to move for some quarantine fish coming in. Here I've got lots of bettas, double half moons, and koi bettas. You can see different patterns, like this one's mostly red, this one, you know, is mostly white, that one's mostly blue, and you know, that guy's a stunner down there, look at that guy. These are all the ones that haven't gone in the store yet, so I ordered 30 of them. I've probably got 10 or 15 of them here. Some of the double half moons came in where their fins just didn't do well in transit, so some of those gotta get some repair, but most of them are pretty nice. Still no action out of these guys. I'm the only guy on the planet that's not breeding crebensis at the moment. That's what I get for trying. Alright, I'm getting to work for reals this time. Oh yeah, by the way, I said I was going to say how much I spent it at Lowe's. Turns out it was 190 bucks, so alright, moving blocks. Well, it's 5:23 now, and I'm realizing I'm going to be running into some problems here. Not problems, but things to consider, for sure. So, as I'm moving these 10-foot piece of lumber around this corner, so as you can see, I gotta kind of like dodge all this stuff. What I'm seeing is going to be the problem is when I need to put the fill lines in, there's no room over there or over here to slide it in from the end like I normally do. So I need to build it as I go, which that means I need to basically drop in this fill line now before I put the next layer on. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to do that. I'd have to cut it apart and slide it in from ends and things like that, and that just would not be good because I'm creating more points to leak. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that, and who knows? I mean, at this point, if I have to do that, maybe I will get ambitious enough, but I could get lazy at any moment too. So it's 5:20. Let's say it takes me 20 minutes to build that piece of pipe, and then, well, I gotta find all the tools, so that could take a while. Like the tap and stuff like that. So 20 minutes to build that. It could happen. It could happen. Well, I'll just get to it. Alright, it's 6:30. I think I'm done. Half because I'm lazy. The other half because I'm not decided whether I want to go 3 tall or not. Like, seeing it, I'm not sure I love it, but I do love the extra space. So I've got one here. Plenty of room to catch fish and things like that. I do love that. Then we've got the next tank up. Plenty of room again above that. And then the tank at the top. So, let me bring it to eye level. My eye level is basically right here. If I kind of, get up on my tippy toes, we can see the bottom and things like that. Feeding is not my favorite. Like, I can do it. It can be done, So now I just gotta decide, do I want the extra tanks? And I guess the big decision to come down to, because it doesn't really change much, is I could put that taller tank. So that's another thing to note is
those are taller. That's a taller tank. That's 4 inches taller up there. I could lower it by 4 inches by putting more of the 20s there instead of that 50-gallon up there. So there's that option. I tried putting that down low and it was like up to here, so it didn't leave much room to catch fish. So yeah, I gotta decide whether I want, I mean I could leave nothing up there and it would just be this high and that'd be really low and it'd be super easy to work in and I'd love it. I could use it for storage, or I can suck it up and just keep some fish up there. And you know, I don't know if it'd be breeders or what it would be, but you know, I'm not sure that I would be sad to have it. And maybe what I do is I set it up, and to take it back down wouldn't be that hard. Like you just have to drain the one, like 2 or 3 more tanks, you know, if I really hated it. You know, I guess the big thing is I could change, like I could elevate this up a little more if I wanted to. I could, you know, I guess that's part of the problem with working with cinder blocks, I guess, is, you know, in theory I could probably cut 4 inches out of there, like if I had a half block, and I could go by half blocks, I suppose. And I could lower it down a little bit and lower that down a little bit, and it would lower the top one down by, let's say, 8 inches, so like 1 block total. You know, if it was 1 block lower, that would be quite a bit better. Maybe I'll look into if they have some half blocks for like this size, because that would bring it down a little bit more. That would be nice. So maybe I'll see if I can get the half blocks. I know they make those half blocks for the 8x8x16s. I don't know if they make them for 8x6x16s. So, you know, I know they make 6x6x8, like that, but that doesn't help me. So I gotta get, like, I don't know if they call them pavers or what they call them, but they're, you know, like the concrete blocks are long and flat. I could use that, and I would only need, let's say, like 6 of them or something to fix, not fix, but to change this exactly how I want, and I would lower it down by a block or so. Yeah, I just don't want to cannibalize my catching space. If I mean, I could make this thing, like, part of the problem is with a fish room, you can make it crazy efficient. You know, you could literally delete, well, that wasn't a good sound. You could delete this block and have like no room to catch a fish, you know. And some people do that, and that, I just don't find that enjoyable when it's hard to do anything in an aquarium. It's hard to get your hand in there, you know. So if I come to about here, that's about the minimum. That kind of 8 inches or so is about really the minimum you want. And you know, so if I could come down that much there, that would save this, and then you do that again up there, that's basically like a whole block. And I think that would solve it. But maybe if I can't find that easily, maybe I just leave it up there, you know. It's not that bad. It's not, you know, I definitely, it's like the height of my tanks at my store, you know. It's not terrible, but I don't like how tall it is either. Yeah, it's like the exact height at my store. You know, it's above eye level just by a tiny bit. And you know, in a perfect world, you'd see it and it would start right here. Like that would be perfect. Like you could look in mid-level of the tank instead of like having to see the bottom. But yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna get done. You know, wife just called. She's gonna pick up some dinner, and I've got way too many videos to edit. Like I'm falling behind on that. I think I finally finished the oxygen test, so I gotta like run those like 30 videos together to make one coherent video somehow. And so I'll probably work on that tonight, or maybe, who knows. I don't know what I do. I work all the time, but I don't know what I work on. So maybe I'll do that. I'm trying to think of anything else before I go. I don't think there's much, you know. Appreciate you guys watching. I'm glad when you guys subscribe. If you haven't already, do that. Like the content. You know, and we'll see you in the next video. Hopefully something cool comes out.